and welcome to a very special episode of The Collector's Corner, brought to you by the Washington Arms Collectors. I say this is a very special episode because it is multi-chapter, and you can write one of the chapters. Simply go to comments below and ask your questions about anything in this multi-chapter episode. If you desire the privacy of the confessional, go to my email address, james@thewack@gmail.com, and ask your questions. Now, Sherlock Holmes, the Armed Citizen. Chapter 1, The Cultural Context. What were the times in which Mr. Sherlock Holmes and his colleague John H. Watson lived? It was during the reign of this queen, Queen Victoria. She was on the throne for 63 years. She saw 17 U.S. presidents come and go, but more importantly for our purposes, she saw an unprecedented explosion of technology. And whenever you have a high-tech, high-energy age, you want to flaunt it. For the Las Vegas Strip, you build something called the Sphere, and you install someone called U2 to make loud music. If you're the Victorians in 1851, you build the Crystal Palace. The Crystal Palace was appropriately 1,851 feet long. It was composed of over 300,000 panes of glass set in iron and was portable. But the Victorians did not invite the ancestors of U2 to perform. Instead, they invited all the world to send its brightest and best technology to compete for prizes. Now, according to the exhibition catalog of the Great Industrial Exhibition of 1851, there were approximately 24 British arms makers who sent their pistols to be displayed and to compete for honors. Now, they sent such things as this. Here we have a transition revolver such as might have been displayed by those 24 British gun makers. It is a cap and ball revolver with a convenient compartment here in its base for your percussion caps. It has lovely engraving over the entire revolver, and it has the original owner's name engraved on the barrel, J.C. Adkins of Millcote. J.C. Adkins was a major figure in British agriculture, developing a strain of cattle that is, I believe, still found in England to this day. Now, this revolver, though lovely and a little bit ahead of its time, it's got a loading device here that's spring operated, but it is unreliable as a military weapon or even as a weapon of self-defense. Now, there were two, and only two, arms makers from America who sent arms to the Great Industrial Exhibition. One of them describes his items as being equipped with lovely ivory or rosewood grips, and he's a bit flowery in the catalog description. His name is forgotten. The other American arms maker is unforgettable, and that is Samuel Colt. He merely said varieties of firearms, and he had quite the variety. Instead of several of these transitional revolvers, such as the British had, Colonel Colt had hundreds of revolvers displayed in a large glass case or hung upon a display tree. He was the whiz kid, he was the it, he was the talk of the Great Industrial Exhibition. And in fact, he acquired British military contracts, and within a few years, he had established a factory in London. Now, the British arms makers weren't those to take matters sitting down. They wanted back those military contracts, and they acquired them through something called Patent 13527. Originally filed by Robert Adams, it was the patent design for the solid frame revolver, where the frame of the revolver is cast with the barrel and the frame as a single piece. As long as this patent was in effect, anyone who wanted to manufacture or sell a solid frame revolver in the British Empire had to pay Adams or others who subsequently owned the patent a After 14 years, this patent expired. And I want to suggest, as Taylorson in his book does, that we have then a renaissance of revolver making. Suddenly anyone could make solid frame revolvers. Now, why does this matter for our episode? It means that when Mr. Sherlock Holmes or his colleague, Dr. John H. Watson, went to their sporting goods store, they had an assortment of wonders by Leonardos like William Tranter, Hill, or the Webleys to choose from. And we'll be taking a look at some of those Webleys in the next chapter. So stay tuned for the next chapter, which is going to be titled Mr. Sherlock Holmes, the Armed Citizen, the Collecting Context. Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Collector's Corner. Please stay tuned for the next episode. Until then, keep your powder dry, your money ready, and both eyeballs skun for those amazing bargains and historical items you'll find on the tables of the Washington Arms Collectors or on the tables of our sister organization, the Oregon Arms Collectors. Thank you.